So let us take that call and that commitment more seriously. You're already meditating once a day, meditate twice a day. If you're already praying once a day, pray 5 times a day. Take it up from our Muslim brothers and sisters. Really turn your attention to God's presence, because that is really something we can offer. There are many practical ways, of course, we can contribute to helping others, and we should do that. But we should always do it from a place of peace and not a place of panic, right? And so prayer holds the key to that for us. So remember every day to share your peace. And I'm praying with you. I know many of you have family members that you're concerned about, and I'm praying with you as well. So I'm changing things. I do it at home. I'm one of those women who moves the furniture. You know, I've been, I really don't know exactly how long, but maybe more than 35 years, I've been doing Sunday sermons. And I like doing Sunday sermons, but I had this call that I really wanted to be with you more intimately, more informally. I still want to share inspiration with you and teachings with you, but I would like to be with you, in a sense, longer and deeper. I like to meditate more deeply together. I like to share with you more informally and not be so stuck, to a script that I promised I would talk about a month ago. So this is my inspiration. And also, I have to say that part of it is, for me, demonstrating with you, as my community, as my spiritual friends and beloveds, that it's important for us to change. It's important for us to follow the call that God gives us, and to take steps towards doing whatever that is that God has called us to do. So if I never change because I think you might not like it, then I can't really demonstrate the teachings with you. So I want to thank all those who have supported this change, and even having tea, we weren't sure if we would have 2 people for tea or 100. So devotees made cookies, I think probably 100 cookies. And I hope you'll join for that, just a time just to say hello. And then in the afternoon, what I want to do in the afternoon is be able to expand a bit on what we do here in the morning. Somebody wrote me and said, well, could we have Sunday morning be a little more interactive? Like I could ask a question once in a while. I thought, well, I have 20 minutes, right? And that's the other thing. I have 20 minutes, and then we're going to take Q&A on Sunday morning. That's not going to work. So I did like the inspiration, though. Because the inspiration was about, can we be more connected? Can we be more as a community? And I like that. So thus we have Sunday afternoon. And we can then practice together. And I can talk to you a little more. And mostly it'll be a time for your questions about the spiritual journey. So I do have a few things to share with you this morning. We began my time with you this morning, as we do when I have classes with you, with the Sanskrit Prayer that you now have a copy of. And if you like the prayer and you would like to learn it, you don't have to go to Sanskrit class. You can just go to our website. And where is it?
It's under where where it says meditate, and
Oh.
then it drops down to morning meditation, and it's an audio of you chanting it.
Okay, so meditate, morning meditation, and then you find a little audio file there, and you can learn the prayer if you like for your own meditation. So this is a universal prayer, is why I like it. And it's a prayer for enlightenment. It's a prayer for illumination of consciousness. Oh Lord, open our eyes that we can see how things really are. And I love the Christian hymn. I don't know the whole thing, but there's a refrain that always stays with me that I associate with this Sanskrit prayer, which is something like, open my eyes that I might see visions of truth thou hast for me. Open my eyes, illumine me, Spirit divine. Open my eyes that I might see, Spirit of truth thou hast for me. Open my eyes, illumine me, Spirit divine. So we find that prayer, the prayer to open our eyes, that we can see how things really are. We find it in all traditions, in all different ways. I was reading little teachings from Rumi, and this is a commentary from a hadith with this teaching taken from the Prophet Muhammad, and some writings of Rumi related to that. And it said, don't despair, for no one despairs of God's kindness. For no one despairs of God's kindness except those who deny it's here. And then it's just talking about someone who's talking to another person, perhaps a friend on the path who's stumbling, right? He says, my purpose in speaking was to help him understand, give alms, and humble himself before God, for he had fallen to a low state from a very high state. We all do that, whether it's physically, emotionally, spiritually. Sometimes we're in a high state of faith, aren't we? And other times we're in that low state of doubt. So he had fallen to a low state from a very high state, but he should still be hopeful. God works in mysterious ways. Things may look beneficial outwardly, but there may be harm within them. If everything were as it seemed, the prophet would not have cried out with such illuminated and illuminating insight, "Show me things as they are." You make things seem beautiful when in reality they are ugly. You make things seem ugly when in reality they are beautiful. Therefore, show us each thing as it is, so that we may not fall into a trap and be really in error. It's the same prayer, isn't it? Show us how to see what is real. Show us how to see into the heart of your transforming power. In the Tao Te Ching, there's a line that says, which is better, success or failure? It's the same question. Open our eyes so we can see what is this divine will that is happening in our life. We had this summer, since I've been back, we've had visitors to the center. So I want to share with you a little bit about visitors here. As soon as I got back, we had something exciting going on. Our building that we call the Grace Building on the Alameda was included in an architectural home tour of historic homes in San Jose. And they were having a centennial celebration. Centennial is 100. So why we have fundraising all the time. Our facilities are 100 plus, okay. So they featured 8 1920s Spanish Revival masterworks from the architectural firm of Wolf and Higgins. And Krista Van Loan wrote a beautiful book about these buildings that were built by this architectural firm, mostly in San Jose in the 1920s. And they wrote, and the San Jose Mercury covered a lot of it as well. And they wrote, one of the features of these mansions, there were mansions which they call the Grace Building a mansion, and so do we. And there were also smaller homes, and there were other types of buildings that they did. But the distinguishing feature of them is that they're all beautiful, and that beauty was a part of their character. And then certain features of them, the arched windows, which you're aware of, and beautiful spiral staircase that we have in Grace Building. And there's columns, inside of there, and so on and so forth. But, here in this book, you can recognize your own building, right? So it's kind of fun learning about the history, too, because this building was built for the Bigley family, who evidently was a political boss and power monger broker in San Jose. And in one of the articles in the Mercury, they wrote, and ironically, the building now is owned by Center for Spiritual Enlightenment. So they sold tickets to these home tours, and the tickets were sold out. They were $35, $40, 1,000 tickets were sold. And Reverend Karuna thought we probably had 800 people come through here. And they came and they looked at the features of the home, and then many of them walked through the gardens to look at the other homes because they think that the Compassion Building was also by the same architect, but they couldn't trace it. But what I want to say about this is that on the day of the tour, I came out, I walked over to Grace to see what was happening, and there was kind of like a sea of people moving through. But it was the oddest experience to have people here who were, in a sense, looking at the wallpaper. And they were very fixed on looking at the buildings. And so as they moved through, and I watched them, it was the oddest sensation. It was like being in a dream. Ordinarily when I'm here with you, we are connecting with one another. We're, marveling about the divine presence here. And these people were wondering if the windows opened, and they were looking at the columns. And I mean, that's what they bought tickets for. But they were not on the same ride that I was on. And of course, to me, this was a grand metaphor for the spiritual life, right? Is walking through life, but not really seeing where we are. Because we're looking for something else. Now, Paramahansa Yogananda said we're all looking for something else, but that something else is God. He capitalized that, capital S, capital E, something else. It's now my favorite name for the divine. What do you believe in? Something else. Something else. it reminded me that the experience, the actual physical experience of being here during that, reminded me of an old English story, teaching story, about a grand hall, a beautiful hall, like the beautiful Grace Building. Only bigger, much bigger, big hall, and it's lit with candles, and there's music playing, and there's feasting, and the hall is open on both ends. The people in the hall are very involved in being in the hall, and outside is dark. But every once in a while, a bird will fly through the hall from one end to the next. And every once in a while, someone who's in the hall will think, I wonder what's out there. I wonder what's beyond this, beyond what we're doing, beyond what we can see. Every once in a while, someone wakes up from that dream. And that is the journey that we call enlightenment. It's the journey that we call spiritual awakening. It's the journey of what we call moving into dharmic living. Dharma is a word that means the way, with a capital W. The way of righteousness, the way of living in harmony with divine reality, the way of living with higher purpose. So we begin to awaken to know that we are here as an expression of the divine life, and we are here to live that purpose in harmony with that power and presence. We're here to discover what it is and then to fulfill that divine purpose. We begin to ask some different questions. You know, early on in life we ask, you know, what do I need to do? Who am I going to be? What can I have? Can I have what I want? We ask all those kinds of questions. And there's a time where we begin to awaken that there's something greater. There's a greater purpose for being here. And we begin to ask, what is that higher purpose for my life? What is divine will for my life? And I think more importantly, the question that we begin to ask is, who do I need to become? Who do I need to be in order for God to be God in me? All there is God. God is expressing through each and every one. We want a better world. And we would like God to show up more in our world with kindness, with compassion. Wouldn't we? With peace. But you know, God is only going to show up through us. If you take Eternal Way, you find out week 1, there's one reality and we are it. God expresses through each one of us. And Dharma, the very primal goal of life, is coming to see that this is a divine life that we're living. And that each of us is here according to divine purpose. We are divinely supported in that purpose once we surrender ourselves to doing what we know we are called here to do. Then we find that divine support. So that is my message for today, for us to wake up in the dream. Wake up in the dream and know that God is our life. God is nearer nearer than your breath, nearer than your heartbeat. And in our tradition, we say it is possible to know that. You can spend your whole life searching for God. Or you can come home to the reality that God is your life. And see your life in a new way. And I promise you, you will not be bored. And you will not be disappointed. And you will truly find that you are divinely supported. No matter what the time, no matter what the place, you are never apart from your divine beloved. Om Shanti.